So who here is already working on the hackathon project? I think Marcus is, right? Who else? Patrick, Teddy, awesome. But do you want feedback on your hackathon projects?
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good. That's cool.
Me and Patrick were in the same hackathon team, so I think he might have prepared some cool things.
Okay. All right. I guess we're 2 minutes in. I think we can just get started. So I guess I can take notes. So it's mentioned here, configurable kiosk mode. Is that the same that you're working on, Marcus? Okay, cool. Who's going to present?
I guess I am.
Awesome. All right, then, please take it away.
Yes. No. Wait. I always find it complicated with Zoom and sharing here. Yeah, so the idea is sort of an improved kiosk mode and also making it configurable. So at the moment, if I would go into kiosk mode now, I would still have these buttons here and these buttons here. But since kiosk mode is more used for having on TVs on the wall, it's not something that you really interact with. It should be something more, a little more visual information just. The initial idea here is to basically, when I click kiosk mode, what I will be left with is the title of the dashboard and then the time range and how often it refreshes. And what we have been talking about is that if I would move the mouse, these things, so the menu would come down while I'm moving the mouse. So then I can sort of configure things if I would need to. And then when I stop moving the mouse, they should vanish. So that is the first thing I would like some feedback on, if that makes sense, or yeah. The second thing is then configuring it. So then you would go into dashboard settings and we would have kiosk mode options. So here you would actually show the options for the standard, TV, and custom. So these checkboxes would be disabled, so you could not change them. It's just to inform you what is being shown in this mode. And then you would have TV mode, which basically has hidden everything except the panels. And then you would have a custom mode where you can sort of pick the things you want to show on your dashboard. Yeah, so that is basically it. The issue is here that these things can grow. We are not sure how much stuff people will be able to configure here, but this is sort of the initial exploration here. So this is quite rough mock-up, just sort of showing the functionality. And I mean, the animations here are ugly, so we don't need feedback on those. Yeah. Any comments?
Who wants to go first?
I don't have any feedback, but I did talk to a lot of users who use Grafana for more industrial use cases. Like they'll have Grafana up on a screen in a manufacturing floor. And so this would be really helpful for them. So maybe in the presentation, you can like list some of those use cases. I can share some research that I have from that.
That would be super.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I've got feedback. Essentially, if you show the tick boxes, if you show the check boxes and they are disabled, I feel like could be a source of frustration. So I think one trick you could do is as soon as someone clicks on one, then you immediately switch to custom, and it'll derive from whatever was pre-selected before.
Yeah, or could the options, basically the settings, be presented in a different way? Just like, or, yeah.
One thing that I thought of that I just now when you did this demo, if you go back to the settings page, maybe it would be nice to have a description on each item as well, or maybe they are self-explanatory. I don't know.
I do not think there's explanatory, to be honest. It would be depend if you sort of, I mean, they are sort of when you see what is. Yeah, so we probably have like a proper description in describing what kiosk mode actually is and what the different types are. So that could be one.
If you want to go all out, build the best kiosk option editor ever, you would show a preview, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But then,
my question is, like, if you choose the dashboard header, does that include like the time range picker and like the refresh thing? Like,
oh yeah,
if you would remove
I should
it.
not. Yeah, I probably should rename that to dashboard title. That is a typo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yes, so the interaction of showing the menu, the toolbar when you move the mouse, does that feel like it's a good thing, or is it something anyone has anything against or see issues with?
So I thought about it from like an accessibility perspective there. So if you would use the keyboard instead, maybe then like if you have an element focused, then it could also be visible.
Yeah, definitely. And then it should sort of be a similar interaction with the keyboard as well, of course. Yeah. So it's more like, because I think the use case is that you set it up, and when you put it into kiosk mode, you don't really mess with it that much more.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, 2 more minutes if anyone has any comments.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to do the full 2 minutes.
Yeah, but if nothing more, I can stop sharing and we can go on to the next topic.
Should we go straight to Olaf? Where is Olaf?
Oh, at the bottom there.
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anyone else that wants feedback on their hackathon projects. I guess they can go first.
Anyone have any hackathon projects?
I have some hackathon projects, but like it's we have way too many issues to get any feedback yet.
How about you, Teddy?
Yeah, I can share something. I feel like the cool parts of it I haven't gotten to mock up yet. I've mocked up just the very basic bare bones aspect of it. But maybe I could get some feedback on the idea. So I guess as context, we're building basically like a service mesh view for Kubernetes services and apps. What we wanted to do is sort of break down the cognitive load that it requires to sort of visualize all of your services and apps and the hierarchies and dependencies, and show them in a visual way as sort of like a default automated view that you get as a part of Grafana if you have Kubernetes. And we want to be able to show sort of like a status for each of those services that at first might be just like up or down, but in the future, we're thinking it could be customizable, like being able to write out a query or like a composite score that would be comprised of multiple metrics and thresholds and weights associated with those. So I started mocking up views of what this could look like, and I haven't gotten to the cool views yet. I've gotten to the boring views. So any feedback on the idea or the visualization could be helpful. Here we go. Can everyone see?
Yeah.
All right. So we were envisioning that this wouldn't necessarily be a dashboard. It could almost be like an application. Maybe this actually says mesh because that's more of like the industry standard. But you'd have sort of like this view where you could switch between a list view, a card view, and a visualization view to view all of your services. And here we've made the decision to list out services first instead of applications, because then you can expand this row to be able to see the pods that are associated with that service and also the status of each pod. And we didn't want to have like a multi-level dropdown where you have to expand the application and then expand the service. So this is sort of how we've organized it. And you can filter by labels. That might be helpful to filter. We have like owner and team and service. Maybe these are labels that you've applied. And also the ability to filter by application. And we stole Gem's status ring. So right now this is showing basically like if Cart API has 4 pods, it's showing that 3 of the pods are up and 1 is down. And then when you expand, you can be able to see which pod is down. And then we're also thinking it could be helpful to have sort of like a service drill down view. Maybe you click into it and you see more information, and it is like a dashboard view where you can see error logs associated with the pod that's down. I've been mocking up other options for this, like this would be using our cards component instead of the table component. But I don't really think that this adds any value. And in fact, the table is more nimble because you can have sort of like the expand collapse rows. And then we've started playing around with what the visualization could look like. So this would simply be sort of like a card view of services, but what we'd like to show is actually the traces and dependencies between them. And so I've been exploring, this was another option I had, like this would be like a short time series of if the pod was up or down. But I've been looking at maybe these panel types and then also the node graph, but would love any feedback. And also something that is good to note is that for this view and being able to show the dependencies, okay, sorry, 2 more things. So we like having it as more of like an app because it's like this central location where you can see this mental map of all of your services. And then we also have like a configuration tab and a how-to tab that I haven't mocked up yet. But in here in configuration, you could maybe set a custom composite score and custom thresholds. And then in the how-to, we would actually have sort of like in-app documentation about how to instrument your services using Kubernetes and whatever tooling that you have to be able to have a cool view like this. So for examples, adding labels is really helpful. So we would have sort of like a step-by-step here that's right in the app. So you don't have to go and like leave the tab and start to figure out how do you have to instrument things to make sure this view would work for you. And so for that reason, we're struggling with like, how would we pull in almost like a panel type into just a view that's not a dashboard. So sorry, that was a lot, but any feedback on the idea, the visualization, implementation, like anything?
Really cool project. Really like this. And one thing, so when I previously been working with these kind of systems, usually in a visualization view, what I usually is aiming for to get like as a overview is maybe the status of my system. So for example, if my system is built, in this case, you have a couple of front-end services, you have a payment services, you have a card service. You basically just want to get an overview of what's the status, is everything functional? And then if something is broken, usually you want to see, as you said, like the dependencies between them. So you easily can see like, okay, so we have the cart API is red, the cart DB is red, and the payment API is red, and all of those three are depending on another service, but that one is green, or that one is yellow, or something. Then you can probably figure out, okay, so the issue is probably in the yellow service. So you start to investigate there. So you get like this overview where you easily can see where the problem probably is. And that's some like, so the dependency visualization, as you said, would be pretty nice. Like combining that with some kind of color per service, as you have here.
Okay.
I really like the status indication you had, where you had like this, you split up the pie basically in different parts to indicate like how many of the pods is green and red and yellow. Really nice.
Yeah, for the dependencies, we were looking at a tool called Kiali, and they do it really well. They sort of have this like visualization of different services, and this would be sort of like the application, and then you can show how they talk to one another. So is this more like what you were envisioning? And then they'd have actually like the color would indicate status for each.
Yep, that would be like spot on.
Cool.
It's kind of tricky to build, I think, but it's if you have it and make it work, it's really nice. Because I think that gives the user like a really quick overview of how your system as whole is functioning, and then you can pretty easily figure out, okay, some things bad is happening in this part of the system, so let's just jump in and investigate those parts a little bit more. And the thing with the dependencies, then you can probably figure out like where in this dependency chain is the issue.
Awesome.
So really nice.
Thanks for the feedback.
I have a couple of comments. You showed the how-to tab where you're thinking of adding some documentation. Should that help, or should that be just like a question mark? Because I haven't seen anything similar in our other other parts of the UI. So wondering about that. It wasn't like very clear to me. I'm sure you'll be thinking about this going forward. And the other thing is like the labels. You showed like two different mock-ups. One had the same color orange for all the labels, and then the other one had different colors. I think the the one with different colors probably makes more sense. It's like visually you know exactly like what kind of labels are added to each of the clusters that you are showing. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty ambitious project. I think if you get just any of the views done, I think it would already be a big success. Yeah, I think maybe one really interesting thing would be to also hook this up to one of our Kubernetes clusters, right? So if you could do that maybe as early as possible to get a sense of what kind of, like how big these like normal sets of entities are, like how many applications, how many namespaces, how many services are sort of normal, or like, I guess, I don't know if you're normal, but I think the dog fooding aspect is really powerful still here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. We're using sort of like a, I don't know what to call it, but like a package of like a fake application and services called Sock Shop, and it's all fake data. So obviously it would look really nice here. But that's a good idea. And then as far as implementation goes, sort of what we were planning was like this view, I think Kevin and Andrew are building. And then what we were going to do is like show mock-ups of where we would take this idea, but maybe just build this to begin with.
That's already
as an MVP.
So for like, I have one last UX comment, which is the donut ring. I think like it looks neat, but I always wonder, so it suffers the same problems as a pie chart, right? You can sort of compare, like if the difference between them is big enough, you can spot it easily, right? But if it's subtle, it becomes harder. And I think that's where a horizontal bar, like a horizontal stacked thing, is more powerful, but I guess it looks less fancy. Yeah. So that's one comment. The other one is, I think, I'm wondering if at some point we're going to move away from red-green as success and error to blue and red, and blue first.
Yeah. I'm actually looking into that. I've been doing some like exploration, or sort of like, oh, how did that happen? An audit of our colors, and they're not accessible. These are our current success colors, and they all look the same for two types of color blindness. And I spent probably an hour like moving my mouse around the red and the green and trying to find like a red-green combo that would pass the colorblind test, and it's just impossible. This is what our blue looks like, but then I feel like that's just an anti-pattern to so many applications, and might be hard to learn that blue means it's up. I think it's a tricky problem.
I would actually think that we should actually talk with people who have these issues, because you sort of fool yourself sometimes, because I've been doing this myself. You sort of look at these filter things and you see, oh, yeah, but they look similar. But for a person who is used to seeing them, I think they can discern the difference there. As long as there is a difference. Sometimes the colors just look exactly the same, and that's an issue. And you can also sort of play with how light and dark the colors are to sort of make them look different. But for me, usually the solution with color is to have something more than color to differentiate them. So you have another thing that separates them than just color.
Cool. All right, well, I've stolen a bunch of time, even though I didn't add to the agenda. So I'll stop presenting now, but thank you for the feedback. I have to find my, there we go.
How much? What time are we at? Yeah, I guess we're still pretty good in time. I also don't really have anything to show yet. I've programmed parts of the solution, so maybe I can walk you a bit through what we're doing. Let me share my screen. So I'm on the sonification project. We've identified some user stories. So one is, as a developer, I'd like to hear if an error appears in the logs while I'm doing something else. Right? So I thought that could be neat, because usually I have a lot of log streams, and one of the powerful things apart from accessibility is that you could sort of enable your other senses as well to get alerted if an error happens. And so that's one thing. Then the another one, I think that is going to be more tricky, is we want to keep using the threshold mechanism within how you define alerts in a time series panel on getting notified or audibly if that's being surpassed, or I guess also then when it's kind of sort of come down. The really more interesting one is this one. I want to hear the ups and downs of a time series, right? So if this could sort of completely be sonified and sort of have a melody being played, that's something that we're working on, but it works. Like, I can get the data out, and there is a sound engine now, but they're not plugged together. So I think that's a bit sad. But it's only Wednesday. Then there's a more intriguing one, which is kind of similar, but it's based on the heat map, where we could essentially take the heat map vertical slices as a spectrum and then could sonify those. That could be interesting. And then another more use case driven one, which is network engineer wants to hear if the pings sort of stop or if they change sort of the rhythm, right? So as you tweak your network. So far, yeah, so I'm working with Costas on this. We defined an API to make the sonifier, and then that returns a function where I can just give it some numbers, and then they're going to be turned into sounds. And so I'm working on the time series chart sonification, and you can't really see much within Grafana about this, because I kind of wanted to make it a central place. So let's hope this all works. Oh, no, chunk not found. So it would be just in here, and then you can say, some things are working. I guess it's because I broke everything. No, here we go. Yeah, so here, then I can say sonify, right? Or I can say PA. Would have been really neat if PS would have still be available. So actually, like, we have a ton of shortcuts that are not documented. I noticed that now when I looked in the code. Any sort of panel action is prefixed with a P, and then you can do another letter. I think we should have those somewhere. Anyway, so I just chose A for audio, so PA. And then if I do that, I actually get in the console here, I can see now the output of that time series in sort of data and time pairs, and that's going to be sent to a sonification module that Costas is working on. So that part is almost done. And then the other thing was the expose story, which is in this live view here. So if I do this, there's a lot of new lines coming in, right? And some of these have level, let me just pause. Some of these have level error, right? This one here, for example. And when Sonify is on, which I still have to tweak a bit here, this thing, then it's also going to send a number essentially and the time to the sonification module. And since log levels are also can be looked at as a ladder, so for example, debug would be 1, info could be 2, warning could be 3, error could be 4, failure or critical could be 5. Yeah, so you essentially have a scale, right? Like, and those could be mapped to nodes. And then you could also say, right, I want everything above error, right? And then you get sort of different beeps, right? You get sort of a beep for an error, but a beep for critical, right? So that will be cool. And that's what I have so far. Yeah. Any feedback?
I just wanted to say, like, it would be like be totally insane if this ends up in with something that's actually usable, because I love it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm I'm fairly confident that this is gonna get into the product like at some way, in some point, in some shape. I just wonder if my hacky code is gonna make it into the product, or if if someone needs to go and implement this properly.
Is it standard for applications to have sort of like a code for what different things mean? Like you were explaining 1, 2, 3, 4 could match with different logs.
Show you. Let me show you. Let me share a different screen. Stop share. The answer is yes. There is.
Oh, okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, the developers have thought about this, and there is a sort of scale that you can see here. So it goes from, the problem is that different people have used different words, and they sort of map to this thing. So information, that's all info. Error, like, this is super annoying. There's this one logging library that said all log levels should have 4 letters and like 4 characters, right? So they like crippled words. Yeah, that's just super annoying. So debug is debug. Error is not error or error, it's error with 1 R, and crit. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, so there's a bunch of logging frameworks out there, but they all map essentially to this other scale here, right? Like critical, warning, error, info, debug, and trace. Yep.
I think it might be, I don't know if this is even remotely possible, but it could be cool for people that really need the sonification for them to almost like customize what different things mean. Like maybe there are defaults, but there is the ability to customize it for your own purposes.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. In that scale scenario, I also we have that little prototype here, where in our little doc there is here the logging alerts, right? So there's like a sound on off, but then there's also this scale slider here where I can say, all right, I want alerts over there. So I'm also making clear what are the scales, well, like what are the scale parts, and above which do I want to be notified when a log line comes, right? Yeah, yeah, and then there's another one which I think is quite ambitious, but that would also be really cool, because then it doesn't need sort of a time series in between. But if you look at an access log, so like something that a web server outputs all the time, anytime someone makes a request, they usually have duration times in there, right? And then if you have a regular expression like this one here, like a little rule that can extract the thing that's in this here, you could then say, okay, well, I want whatever comes in, I want this mapped onto this other range, where I say 0 is obviously super fast, so that's fine. And like 2000 would be 2 seconds, so 2000 milliseconds. That would be a pretty long time for a request to be answered. And that would be like a pretty high or loud noise. And then anything sort of in between gets mapped to a sound. And then so as the requests come in, you get like beep, 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 beep. Yep. Anyway, that's it. Yeah. All right. That feedback.
You
Or
should definitely do that that sound the thing you just did during the demo.
oh, yeah. I mean, so I don't know if we have time. We have enough time, but I think we want to build a fake app that outputs logs in a certain range, so they could do this one here, right? Like this is the notes of Funky Town, right? So something like this. Anyway, all right, stop sharing. Who is next? Olaf or anyone else from like a hackathon project?
So, Olaf can probably go first, but I think we have time. Then I can just show what we have come up with so far.
Sure.
But
Let's do it.
Olaf can go first.
Okay, sure. So, oh wait, is it this? I think. Oh my God! I think I have to. I haven't allowed Zoom to be able to share my screen, so I guess I'll have to quit Zoom. But then maybe Tobias can go first. I guess. Because I have to restart this.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
Just to everyone when we do the first presentation.
Let's see. Okay, cool. Can everybody see everything?
Yep.
All righty, right. Yeah, so we this is not the correct. Okay, let's hope that works in a reasonably quick fashion. Yeah, so basically we wanted to be able to like get Jupyter notebooks to run in Grafana, and like the optimal solution would be that you could like get data from like a panel or like a query, and then just like process it in a Jupyter notebook. And like we ran into some difficulties. The initial thought was like, oh, you can probably like, it would be super cool if you had like a document where you could like just add a snapshot and then kind of describe it. And then you can maybe do some data handling with it, but turned out to be super hard to like put either a snapshot or a panel outside of a dashboard. So that did not work. Oh, there we go. Cool. Yeah, so we did something just a bit basic. Let's do a demo. So it basically just, oh no. Oh well, that's that, I guess. It's oh, I think I have to do that's annoying. Oh well, we had a working notebook at least, even though we had like issue of getting data into it. Grafana exception, yeah. Yeah, it's being the whole notebook is being run inside an iframe, which is kind of makes it super tricky to like pass back and forth data. I don't think I might not be able to get this to work actually. Oh well. Nope. It broke. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to show anything. It worked this morning, okay. Oh well, I'm gonna stop sharing. See if I can get it to work.
Did you have a look at how VS Code integrates Jupyter notebooks? Because I think they do.
Well, not VS Code, but we did look at some like alternative solutions. So like we have looked at I think it's called Observable.
Yep, Tobias Rose. I think he wanted to say Observable HQ.
What a pose.
All right. I think it's time for Olaf.
Yeah, okay, let's see if this works now. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
No? Okay, cool. So the idea is that we have these log messages here that are kind of messy and it's hard to read these. So I've added this kind of prettify switch that you can toggle to make them like more readable or like prettifying them. So this is kind of the idea. But what I would like some feedback on is that sometimes we might not have, this is only possible when the log messages are in JSON. And sometimes we might not have any JSON logs at all. And then basically this switch won't do anything. So I wanted your feedback on if this kind of switch should be hidden or if it should just be, you know, disabled kind of, or if there's any other way to implement this kind of behavior. And there's also a question of people might want to always prettify their logs for like any kind of data source. So I was thinking maybe to add something in the settings of a data source to always prettify log messages, for example. And I will also like your feedback on if that's kind of a good idea or if there's any solution to that. So yeah, if you have any feedback, just go ahead and share.
Maybe just for the sake of conversation, I would ask if users ever want to have not prettified logs. Like if we shouldn't just do it defaultly and like have that, like what would be the reason why would they don't want to have this?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't really know. I guess if the log messages are like short enough, I guess there's no need for prettifying them. But then also there's like this, if it would always be prettified, then there's this kind of, you have to opt out from that if you don't want it. And I guess it makes more sense to be able to opt in for it. I don't know.
Regarding this, like I know the ECS specification for Elasticsearch, it's quite huge. I mean that a log document can have hundreds of fields that are really not related to the log itself sometimes. So doing it, like always doing it, means that basically a person looking at Elasticsearch logs will look at probably, I don't know, like will take 3 screens to only visualize a single log entry. So I'm not really sure about it.
Yeah. Yeah, in that case, you maybe wouldn't want it to always be prettified, I guess.
Yeah, at the same time, like even the default visualization is not gonna be super helpful in that case.
Yeah,
because
true.
you will still have like a huge document anyway.
Yeah.
I really like the idea. It's a bit tricky. I remember when we did something similar But so we used to, on a previous company, way back, we used to use like the elk stack. So Elastic, Kibana, Logstash. Then we basically had log processing like this, but we did it before we stored things in Elastic. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think probably some of you guys have better knowledge about this, but there you always have like both the parsed document and you also have the raw one. So you can always like toggle between the two. So for example, if you, and then we, in that case, we used something like ngrok, I think it was called, to basically write like parsing logic to logline. So it could be JSON that we parsed, but it could also be like just a line of text, and you just pick different parts of that line and said like, okay, so this is the timestamp, this is the message, etc. So I'm not sure if it works to investigate to do something similar. But I think as soon as you start to parse to prettify the log lines, you also need to be able to see the raw one. Just for like debug purposes and just, yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, when you enable prettify, can we get like a different pane with the, the structured data, but at the same time, we can still like see the, the original, like the original view with the long log lines, or would that be like too clumsy to have them side by side?
I don't know about that actually. That could be a solution, but the problem is that it might be a lot of information. Like if you could see both this, like the raw message and the prettified, it might take up a lot of space as well, I guess.
So just to be clear, both are the raw message. Just
right, yeah.
One is formatted.
Yeah, I was just...
Okay, so slight distinction. Actually, we do remove ANSI codes there from the raw message. So it's not exactly the raw message, but this is still like the prettification here is just, there's no parsing happening per se. This is just prettifying it, like indenting and formatting. But to your point, Jita, if you prefer not to prettify it, you can still expand the line, and then you can see the parsed version, which looks a lot like the prettified version, right? So if you wanted to just do that one, right, you still have both. Like there you actually have both. But what helps a lot here, I think, is for people who don't want to do this on every row, right? Because like expanding, you would need to do on every row. I think there is benefit in having a prettified version definitely available. Yeah. And then if they have huge documents, yeah, then that's their problem. Much we can do with well, with Loki you actually can you can parse this as JSON, you can extract fields that you want to show, you can like you can jump into, so for example, like just you can jump into tags, only render the tags here, right? Like that's quite powerful. But yeah, but I guess back to your overall question, I think should this be on for everyone? I would say that's a viewer preference. So someone, I think I would, if this was up to me, I would store this in the local storage of the browser for the user, and then they can decide if they prefer looking at this prettified, or if they want to look at this not prettified, and then sort of store that preference by data source even, right? So that that you don't, because some data sources will more naturally have JSON data that looks sort of like this, and other data sources might just have like, yeah, just other structured data.
Do you think that sort of preference should be able to be toggled like or set here, or do you think it should be specified in like these settings for the data source? Or
so I'm arguing for it being a view setting. So I think it makes a lot of sense there, like next to wrap lines. I'm just slightly annoyed at the spacing of the label and the toggles because it's a bit unclear to toggle left or toggle right. But and you had one more question, which was, is JSON the only structured logging format? No, there's log format, right? Which gives you key values. And then so you have just one level of key values, as opposed to JSON can be multi-level steep. So if you look at like Grafana's logs, anything that Grafana outputs is formatted as with log format, which is a key value format. So you have a key equals a value. And then those could be separated out onto individual rows when formatted. Yeah. And then to another comment here on the maybe prettify, maybe that's not most ideal one. I would probably call it format structured log lines. I think would be, sounds too long, but I think that's most accurate. Yeah, so maybe prettify is okay. Yeah, because we can only really format the structured logs.
yeah, I'll have a brainstorm session later and try to come up with something else, I guess. But I was also wondering about like when we don't have, in this case, when we're only looking for JSON logs, sometimes we don't have any JSON logs and then this switch won't do anything. Do you think we should just hide this, or should it be disabled? Or
so I was thinking about it now, and I'm wondering, so I don't like when stuff are disabled or hidden, because then sometimes it creates this feeling of confusion, and I don't know why is that and what should I do to make it not disabled. But I'm just thinking, like, if you would prettify it and there won't be any logs in log format or JSON format, maybe we could add like meta info message or some like info for user, like, hey, your logs, like, you don't have formatted or structured logs, so nothing happened. Just my thought would be to have it like similarly as you have line limit. So just like out there, we usually add there some meta information. So maybe we could add something there, or I don't know, maybe someone else has idea. But I personally don't like disabled stuff when I don't know why is that.
okay, nice, thanks.
Now when I got some more context, I think what I would like, it would be kind of cool to, instead of have like a prettify, it would be nice to be able to select what fields that should be displayed in like collapsed mode.
So like only showing like message and timestamp, for example.
Yeah, so basically I could like
just to tell.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just to tell you can actually, if you.
I think you can use these to just choose, right? So I'm only looking at the message right now. And then I can also get message and timestamp here. But then you would, okay, no.
Then I'm already happy. Sorry.
Nice.
But that's just me. I just realized I need to use these features way more.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. Okay, so does anyone else have any other feedback that they'd like to share?
My only thing, like, so I mean, for me, like having the prettify option is actually nice. The only thing is that I think like it's not the first time we had this feedback on the options here. It's that it started to grow a bit, and really I'm having some troubles understanding which toggle is referring to the prettify and which one is referring to wrap lines. I don't know, like the spacing is not optimal.
It would be nice to have some sort of dividers, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it would be something for the design system. Alrighty.
Okay. Well, thank you for the feedback.
Cool. Thanks for presenting, Olaf, and everyone else who presented. Anything how we can improve the feedback sessions? Any meta feedback? What did you think, Mary? First time.
I think, oh, sorry, my video's been a little weird. I think it was interesting to see the product. And actually, I think something that would have been interesting for your presentation would have been to actually hear the sounds. I was going to ask you, I know you did the little blah, 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 but to actually kind of like hear what some of the sounds were like would have been really cool. I think it sounds really awesome. So thank you.
I agree. Someone else is doing the sound part. I'm doing the boring. Yeah, and we haven't brought the codes together yet. Yeah, that's the sad side. Cool.
Beep, beep, boop,
Tobias, yeah, you unmuted.
Oh yeah, no. Make sure the stuff you're supposed to present works. Lesson for me.
Nice self-reflection. Teddy, you also unmuted earlier.
Oh, I noticed that everyone today like started off by saying what kind of feedback they're looking for, and I feel like that's really helpful. Just going forward for people to specify.
All right. Thanks. We're exactly done after an hour. Then have an awesome Wednesday and rest of the week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.